This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. Today, I'm privileged to have Dr. Maribeth Kuzmeski, who is the president of the Red Zone Marketing, a consulting firm with clients throughout the financial services industry. Red Zone's marketing primarily focus is, let me start that. Red Zone Marketing's primary focus is designing innovative marketing and business growth initiatives. Maribeth is also a professor at Oklahoma State University, who teaches marketing as well as personal branding, name, image, and likeness for student athletes. She has a bachelor's degree from the Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University, an MBA from the George Washington University, and a PhD in business administration from Oklahoma State University. Welcome to the show, Maribeth.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to chat in the pre-show and I got to hear a little bit about your story, but how did you get here? How did you decide, I want to serve financial advisors and I want to help them with their marketing?
Yeah, I never really actually said that until something happened. And the something that happened was I had started my marketing consulting firm and I would work with anyone, small businesses that primarily I thought I would work with. And I had met a financial advisor at a networking event. And he said, well, I need some marketing help. He said, but I don't have a lot of money. And at the time he had $10 million of money under management. And so he said, well, I really want to hire you, but I don't have a lot of money and I'm not sure it's going to work. So how about I just pay you if it does work? I'm like, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, that means that I will pay you based on, if we make any money. It's sort of being paid like commission. And that means that you've got to get licensed. So you've got to get your Series 6 and 63 and 65 and life, fasting and health and all of these things. And then we can start marketing. And I said, because at the time I only had 4 clients, sure, this sounds like a great idea. I knew nothing about financial services. So this is 20 plus years ago. And I started and I got all my licenses and we started marketing and I found some niches in his book. And before you know it, I was really happy with my decision. And I think he was too.
Wow, what a cool story. That's crazy. Like you're a marketing person, you get licensed. I just thinking about when I first got started as a financial advisor, like that took a while. That's not something you do in a day. But you're a very smart person. You're very educated to take that leap of faith. That's a big leap of faith to do that and to be involved in it. So it had some payoff, right? Because now, the last several years and really 20 years or so, you guys have really been doing an awesome job of serving financial advisors. A lot of advisors know your name. They've seen you speak from stage. So it paid off. So congratulations on that.
Well, yeah, the advisor went from 10 million to over 200 million in 5 years. And he went to number 1 in his broker dealer and they asked me to come and speak. And that was sort of the beginning of being in a niche because all of a sudden I had all these people who wanted to do what that guy did.
Makes perfect sense. And advisors, like this is something I preach and I know you preach as well, like find your niche, create a niche, be famous in that, what some have called your fractal, like be fractal famous. I know Michael Port, he is the owner of Heroic Public Speaking, and I'm part of his speaking group and getting, trying to get better at my own craft on stage. And he talks about this, like, hey, find like not even a niche, but really define this fractal, who it is you serve, because then they will love you. They will put you on stage. They will want to know what you're doing. And that's exactly what you did. So I highly recommend for advisors out there, if you wanted to grow and scale, this is a really great case study to learn from. Maribeth, you're living, exactly what you preach. And I love that. Let's talk about balance. You have a few things going on. You've got a business, a very successful one. You also teach at a university, prestigious university. You help athletes with their marketing. And you have a family with 2 grown children, which awesome. And congrats on that. Mom of the Year award right here, who's had kids who've gone on to be successes. That's the thing. We talked about this in the pre-show, like, this is super important as parents. Like I have an 18-year-old, she's getting ready to launch. And, this is a totally different world for us. We've been so used to having kids, children. Now they're going to be young adults and start really to make their way in this world. So tell us What is your definition of balance as you've been dealing with all this from several different angles?
Yeah, balance has been something that was very hard from the very beginning for me, because as a working mom, you have responsibilities with the children. And that's why I started my own business, actually, was because I was having kids. And I thought this will be a great way for me to control my own schedule. It wasn't exactly like that, but it was, that was the reason that I did that, because I really wanted to have balance. And one of the things that I have done throughout my entire career, and it's the only thing that keeps me sane, is I time block everything, literally everything. My calendar looks like I'm a crazy person, but I have everything blocked out, including the time that I'm going golfing with my husband, and the time that I'm taking a vacation, and the time that I'm going to see one of my, my child play hockey or whatever it is. But everything is blocked out. So I can look in advance and say, hey, I'm going to need a week off, or I'm going to need to make sure that I'm not working from 4 to 10 every single day. And so I like to work early in the morning. So I start early and I end early. So I'm usually working from about 4 to 4. Now, I don't work the whole day, but at 4 o'clock, I am done. But I've got the things in my day blocked off. I have workout time. I have lunch time. I have, talking to friend time. I have all of the things worked into that schedule, but the computer closes at 4 o'clock.
Love this. Yeah. Time blocking is crucial. This is a skill that can be learned. Like, this is not something you're born with, but you can learn this skill. What I find with advisors is they know they should time block. They just don't do it. They don't do it. Well, let me rephrase that. They don't do it proactively. It's very reactive. Oh, I have an appointment. I've got to be there, or, oh, I have this. Instead of proactively creating what I call an ideal calendar for both your business and for your personal. So I love that you pointed this out, that this has been a great thing for you to keep your balance. Because I cannot stand on the soapbox and preach from the pulpit more than what you just said. Like, block everything. I look at the quarter and I look at what we have, where our vacations are, when I'm going to be speaking and those things, and make sure that everything's blocked off so I don't have conflicts and that things are balanced. So I love that you do that. Fantastic. What do you think one of your biggest struggles or issues with trying to keep the time block schedule, trying to, keep everything going the way that it should for you personally? What might be some, issue with balance there?
Well, obviously there's interruptions that might happen during the day. A child calls, a friend calls, a parent calls, something like that. But most of the time it's email. Because I think that, and I was talking to a financial advisor this morning about this. I said, you've got to be able to close the computer or to shut the email down during the day. Otherwise, you get sucked in and it's 10 minutes and then it's 20 minutes. And now you haven't made your prospect calls and you haven't returned calls from people that have already reached out to you. And it just sort of gets in the way. So what do? Well, you got to block in time to look at your emails, because otherwise you could literally sit and look at your emails all day long, respond to them, delete most of them all day long, and never really get anything done, although you feel productive because, man, was I at my computer all day long. But it's not necessarily that. I mean, that's the thing that really, and for most of my career, that has been the same thing. It has been the email and the interruptions. And sometimes they're important and you have to deal with them. And then you go off your time block. And sometimes, most of the time, they're not.
You nailed it. Like, not only is this a struggle for most, but you know what to do with it. Yeah, email is the biggest interruption, actually. We've done some research on this. 2014, FPA did a whole research article about what are advisors struggling with. They found that advisors are 3 to 4 times more likely to be workaholic. And the things that they struggle with the most: paperwork, email, and compliance. those are the 3, the things that they hate. But now it's really social media. I found social media, email, those are really the top 1 and 2, depending on who you talk to. So I concur. And the other thing that you mentioned here is that it's a reactive thing, right? You can open up your email inbox, and I think there's a sense of importance, like, oh, I'm important. People want to know what I know. I need to get back with him, and all my clients, I've got to respond. That's one thing I think is sort of a myth, to achieving balance is that I've got to respond to everyone, in 5 minutes or less. And I'm a great advisor if I get back to them really fast. Like, you can create teams to do that. Like, you don't have to specifically be the one. You can have an assistant. What if it's really technical? Great. Then they'll delegate that to you up the chain to deal with. But then you can set time. I had an advisor just the other day in my coaching program struggling with email. And I said, how often do you check email? And he's like, all day long.
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you turn off all your notifications, turn off all the bings and all of the pop-ups on your screen from Outlook, turn those all off. Yeah. And then schedule 3 times a day to check your email. Yeah. And during that time, respond back to clients. And if it's going to take longer than a half an hour to respond, put it tomorrow sometime when you actually have time blocked out to respond to your clients. This is all part of the ideal calendar. But you're right. This is where advisors just really struggle. What else do you see? I mean, you talk to advisors every day. You're helping them with their marketing. You know that you ask them to do a few things and they don't get back to you because of this, that, and the other. Where else do you think that they struggle besides email with trying to achieve balance?
Well, I think it's the struggle of new business development and then making the time to do that new business development. So if it's getting towards the end of the day and you go, you know what, I don't have enough new business coming in. I need to work a little longer. I need to go on LinkedIn. I need to do this. And that's not necessarily the most productive way to get the marketing done. So it's mixing in all of the priorities so that you're not, well, we're just waiting for referrals to come in. And so they haven't come in for a little bit. So now I'm going to panic for a while and figure out what to do. Or, you can kind of build some of these activities in that keeps you in touch with strategic alliances and keeps you in touch with the clients that are the best referrers and keeps you in touch with prospects. I mean, sometimes, and I know this sounds unbelievable, but sometimes advisors don't call back prospects right away. And I don't mean in the next, you get an email, somebody says, hey, I'm interested in doing business with you. And then in 3 minutes, you've got to call them back. But what if it's not today and it's not tomorrow and then it's the day after that? And so it's good to have a process. I was listening to actually another podcast earlier, and this woman was talking about how she works 3 days a week. And how do you work 3 days a week? She has a process and a system for everything. If she doesn't need to answer that email herself, she forwards it to someone else. If it requires a phone call, she forwards it to her team members to get a phone call scheduled. She's trying to delegate as much of the work that she possibly can so that she only has to work 3 days a week. And well, that's all she wants to work because she's got a family. So you can't do that just and say, well, I'm just going to not do anything on Mondays and Fridays, and I'm just going to work in the middle of the week. You've got to have a system and a process for dealing with that. And if a client emails on Friday and you're not checking your email, how are you going to deal with that?
Exactly. I think this is the other part of this is how the time blocking works and why it's so important, why you've done such a good job, because you've seen on the other end how when it doesn't work, these things pile up. And so those seemingly more important activities might even take a back seat because you don't have a system. You don't have a process.
And you have to have someone to delegate some of this stuff to. I don't mean that you have to have a big staff, but you've got to have somebody that you can count on, that you can delegate this stuff off, whether it's somebody outside of your organization or inside of your organization, but you have to have somebody. I've always hired a bunch of people, both internally and externally. And it's the only way that I've been able to do the business the way I've done, because I can't do really any more work keeping with my commitment that I want to only work so many hours.
This issue right there honestly comes up every single podcast, every time in some form or fashion, but the word delegate, like the D word, comes up all the time. And, it can be a struggle, but for those that figure it out, it really makes a lot of sense, not only to keep their balance, but eventually to scale. As they're bringing in more business, they can scale if they're good at delegation. If they're not, it is a struggle. And I hear a lot of advisors just kind of justify, well, I don't really want to grow my business, or I don't really want to scale. Likely it's because they don't know how to delegate or don't want to because they failed at it. So you are someone who obviously gets this, Maribeth. What are some things that have helped you to really delegate and to really feel comfortable about it so that it works well. I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at it, from the one who's getting delegated to, the person who's actually saying, hey, I need your help with this. What would you suggest for advisors that has worked well for you that you could pass on?
Yeah, I think of one thing that I do with my main assistant who's worked for me for nearly the entire time I've had my business, almost 20 years. And so I'm dumping a lot of things to her. Hey, schedule this, do that. And I don't really know what's been done because I don't want her to email me back every single time I did that, I did this, and I've got to scroll through all these emails. So she keeps a screen open, an email open, and she writes me an end of day message. And the end of day message incorporates everything that she did during that day. I tried to reach this person. He wasn't available. I'll call him tomorrow. I got this person scheduled. This invoice has been sent out, whatever it is, she will tell me all of the things that she did. And now I can respond to that and say, okay, well, what about, this, or what's happening with this? But we have one communication at the end of the day, as opposed to a two-way communication that happens throughout the day, because that can keep you busy as well.
Yeah, just getting back to the delegator, right? Like what you've done. Yeah, I use Teams very similar to this. We'll discuss like in between. Sometimes I have a lot of virtual assistants. We use Teams to kind of connect everyone, to kind of see, hey, what's going on with specific things. But I like that idea. That's a great idea to just have one response. Like, here's what I got done today, and here's what else do you need me to do on any of these things? Because then you can see it all in a snapshot.
Yep.
We like dashboards, don't we? On our tech, like we want to see like everything together. I want to know what's going on, but that gives you kind of the overall view of what's happening. What a brilliant thing. With advisors who struggle to delegate, what's something that you would tell them to do? Something, obviously you'd want to know all the details and things because you help them with developing their business, but that they can't really develop without starting to delegate, or, if they're struggling with that delegation, what would be something that you would suggest?
Well, and this is kind of the obvious, but you've got to hire good people, because you're not going to delegate to people that you don't have confidence in. So you've got to have good people. And that is one of the hardest things right now going on with financial advisors, because it's hard to find good people to do some of these jobs. And a lot of cases, they have to be licensed. Well, that's difficult for people to, go through the whole licensing process and all of these other things that it might be easier to take a job doing something else. But you have to be able to find good people. In order to find good people, you have to pay good people. You have to pay them well. And in order to do that, you've got to trust in the investment that you're making. And you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. I've spent money that has gone out the window because I tried hiring people that didn't work out. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have figured out how to do it better, how to do it right. And that's the thing. Like, you've got to be able to have good people with you. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well said. This is a golden nugget moment. Like, we talk about hiring people, we talk about delegating, but it's good. It's the whole good to great idea of you got to get the right people on the bus, not just people on the bus, but the right people that fit the culture that you can trust. Because ultimately, if you don't delegate, a lot of times you don't trust that person to get it done. And I hear this all the time. Well, the reason why I'm not balanced is because I'm trying to do everything myself, and I don't want to hire someone because they can't do it as good as I can. If I had $1 for, like, I'd be a millionaire at this point, like, with just that excuse. The reality is that's just not true. There are people that do things way better. And I think that's kind of the flip that's happened in business world is quit hiring people who aren't as good as you. Hire people who are better than you or have a skill set that you can train. I hire by heart. I try to hire by, what are your goals? Where do you want to go? And I hire heart first. And if their skills match up with a certain, description, great. But a lot of times they can learn. Like, my degrees are in social sciences. And I'm a lot of times teaching time management and marketing and scaling for financial advisors. And, you the same. Like, obviously we have different educational skills, but it's the heart, isn't it? It's kind of goes back to hire the right people. So yeah, I like that. Anything else you'd say about that, Maribeth?
I would just, In terms of hiring the right people, everybody that works for me right now, whether they're regular contractors, meaning every single week they're working with our firm, or they are people that are on the payroll, actually, they're all better at me and than doing the things that they're doing. They're all better at doing it than I would do it. And so that you're exactly right. I didn't even think about that really, but I'm like, oh yeah, I can't do that like she does. I can't do that like he does. I mean, I really, I think I've done that, but I like to hire people with the excellence reflex. And the excellence reflex is, like if you throw a ball at somebody, they're going to go like this, they're going to get out of the way, right? But what if something isn't just right? And it's the kind of person that goes, you know what, this isn't just right. I need to fix this. And they may not be perfect, but they care enough to get it right. And everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but we've got to care enough to get it right. And that's the excellence reflex.
I'm going to quote you on this. I love that idea. This excellence reflex. And I hope you teach this to your people, because it sounds like you really do care about this concept and this topic, and you ought to trademark it. But the reality is, like, this is the thing. I can hire someone who they have the attitude of, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. But the person who is train me everything, and if I don't know, I'm going to come to you. And how do I do this again? Like what? Those people don't last long with me. And I've made some mistakes of hiring people like that, but most of the time I'm looking for the one who has that, what you call excellent reflex, who really cares enough to get it right, but will figure it out. They're proactive, as Stephen Covey says, right? Like they're going to be proactive. This kind of a theme that's resonating today is like, be proactive with your calendar, be proactive with your marketing, be proactive with who you're hiring, and hire those people who really are proactive. I'm going to say it again, like proactive. So I love this. This is great. Really good stuff here. I know you've got a lot that you can continually give, and I know you do from stage, from your marketing business. What advice would you give to advisors who they're struggling with marketing? They've come through this pandemic, and I know you said you've got a long list of people waiting to get your help, because all of a sudden they realize, well, wait a minute, I'm not getting referrals directly. I'm not doing seminars now. My website, it's blowing up on the web now. I've been doing this for a very long time. I know that everything is really going that direction. I've seen that. I've been doing stuff virtually for a very long time, but advisors are starting to realize this, and they're either getting on that bus or they're not. And the ones who are even back at an office, they're still doing a lot of this marketing online nationwide. So a website is key. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you do to help advisors with their website, with really marketing and doing business development that direction?
Yeah, the website is the most important thing if you haven't gotten that done yet. Now, there's a lot of other things that are very important, but if you are getting a lot of referrals because you're doing such a good job for your clients, those prospective clients, those referrals are going to go to your website and check you out, because that's what people do today. And a lot of advisor websites are not great. And a lot of advisors don't pay any attention to their websites. And frankly, their clients don't pay attention to the websites either. It is the prospective clients. That's who pays attention to the website. And so if you haven't built out a website for your prospective clients, talking to them, using the words that they would use, not, we do financial planning and investment management, blah, blah, blah. It's what are their challenges? What are their issues? And how do you solve them, uniquely, if you will? What stands out about you and your firm? In a lot of cases, it's the people in the firm. We like to put the pictures of the people in the office on the website, because that gives people a little bit of understanding of what's going to happen. And one of the things that we really try to overcome with a website is this big disconnect that happens in financial services. So your clients love you. They know you've changed their lives. They retired early. They got a second home. They invite you to their kids' weddings. They love you, right? And your prospects think you're going to try to sell them something. And so it's a massive disconnect that has to be closed up. And the only way you can close that up initially is through your website. Give them the warmth of you to, talk a little bit on video, share a little bit of who you and your team are, talk about your uniqueness. Don't just use a bunch of financial services words. And that really makes a big difference, because we got to let our prospects in a little secret that your clients already know. And that is why we need to probably update the website, and all websites need to be updated on a regular basis. Some people are going in and doing things every day on their website. Sometimes they're not looking at the website for 5 years. That's too long. 2 years is too long. A quarter is about right, if not monthly, depending on if you're blogging or not.
This is so good. We could spend hours here. Like, you brought up something. I love the blah, blah, blah websites and the warm websites. Like, there's a chasm, isn't there? And financial advisors, you're honestly one of the worst. Like, I know, and a lot of it is compliance driven, to be quite honest. When you're in a compliance world, you're in a broker dealer that doesn't allow you to do much, like, you're kind of stuck. I started Northwestern. It was like, I couldn't do anything. I could barely put my own bio on there, and they had to approve every single word. When I left and became independent, I was like, the world is my oyster. I can put together a website. And I spent way too much time trying to figure out a website. And it is a time suck, and that was, 15 years ago or so. Nowadays, you can do a Wix, you can do all sorts of, tricks out there to get started. But the reality is, you're right. Unless you want to be the one who's constantly updating it, you need to outsource this. It's way better to have someone do it, I know, than you trying to do it on your own. So I love that. But the warmth of you, talk on video, share you, this is crucial, because the website is not where your clients go. They already have you, right? If you have a portal, fine, like, have a portal where they can go and see their investments. But yeah, I think you're exactly right, Mary, but that's what they kind of tout is look at what we are, look at all these alphabet soup behind our name, all the stuff we do for our clients, instead of here's who we are, here's how you get to know us, prospective client. Beautiful. Well said. If they're struggling with that, and they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get started, to get this website going, or recheck their website that they haven't dusted off in 5 years? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can go to redzonemarketing.com, and under consulting, we have a list of all the different kinds of services that we do, but one of them is website. And we start with messaging, and then we go to visuals, and then we go to design and layout. But we have to start with the words, and then we go to the powerful visuals, and then we go to the design of the site, no matter where you're going to put that site. But yeah, the redzonemarketing.com is probably the best place to go, or you can email info@redzonemarketing.com.
Love it. Any last words you'd like to leave us with as far as like marketing, balance, anything else you want to say that you want to really get out to our listeners today about what we've been discussing?
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, is that when there's volatility in the marketplace, advisors sometimes get off of their routine and their schedule, because they're reaching out to clients, they're doing all these kinds of things, which I think is a great idea. But it's recalibrating your priorities. So just because you've got a time block right now that is the time block forever, you have to recalibrate some of these things when there's terrible volatility in the market. Clients are worried, but it's also an incredible time to bring on new clients, because people aren't just sitting around going, I guess my advisor's pretty good, because they haven't heard from he or she, and now they're maybe looking for somebody else. This is one of the best times, these volatile market times, to sort of change up your priorities and do some things differently, and be flexible with how you're doing that.
Love this. Yeah. But it's that proactive mindset of looking at a challenge that everybody's facing, like the industry wide, and use that as a time to market and say, hey, here's what's going on. I remember when I wrote this book, Achieving Balance, I had no idea that I'd get, when I declared that I was going to write this book, that Michael Kitces would call me up or email me actually and say, hey, can you jump on my podcast next week? And I was like, let me look at my ideal calendar. Yeah, I can do it tomorrow. It's like, let me recalibrate my priorities, Michael. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to do that. And I know you've been on his podcast too, but I just knew he reaches 50,000 advisors, and that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. And for me, it was, we're suffering from a huge issue. And that is, we're all losing our balance out the window, because now we don't know how to do this virtual thing from home. And, I was glad I could be a resource, but as advisors, are we getting the word out at the time that it's needed? Because that honestly changed my business. It changed my approach. I got on several podcasts from that. Lots of clients came to me because of the podcast, because I was being proactive and I was letting know, hey, it was shut down. Our town shut down March 24th, 2020. That was my birthday. And that's when I decided to announce my book. It just a little bit of luck, a little bit of just me opening my mouth and putting a 2-minute video on Facebook and LinkedIn saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Advisors, I think, could really benefit from what you just said there, to really recalibrate, look at the marketing, dust those off, and prepare for the things that are happening right now. Thanks, Maribeth, for being on the show. Appreciate having you. Excellent resource, guys. Go to redzonemarketing.com, interact with Maribeth. I know you're on LinkedIn, you're active there, and looking forward to continually, following you and what you're doing. Thanks again for adding to the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, if you like this, share it, comment, connect. And we love that you're out there helping your clients. Remember to be balanced advisors. Have a great one, everybody.